Hello everyone and welcome back to the Game Movie Jerks. In today's Hollow Knight lore video, we're taking a look at something I've mentioned quite a few times, the Godseekers. The Godseekers are an interesting group, as most of them actually no longer exist in the real world. The entirety of Godhome rests in the mind of the Godseeker. The Godseeker is an NPC found in the Junk Pit, a new area that was released as a part of that update. When you find her, she is locked up in a chained cocoon of sorts. It is unclear who made it, but it resembles the architecture of Godhome, so I assume that she made it herself. However, we have no idea why she would lock herself up. Perhaps it's a hibernation type thing, or maybe she sought to gain a pure focus and find the source of the Pale King's beacon. Others speculate that it was Ogrim or perhaps Hornet who locked her up. This makes sense as they seek to protect the area, and keeping an unknown entity locked up is a good way to do so. The Godseekers are actually from outside of Halnest, specifically the Land of Storms. In this place there are two gods, the gods of rain and thunder, who disappeared in some way. Probably to Tahiti. Wait, no, this isn't Dutch, these are gods. They most likely died out or abandoned their worshippers, the Godseekers. At some point, all the Godseekers converged their minds into one being. This would be the Godseeker, and afterwards they created a device called the God Tuner. Through this device, they were able to detect gods, and with it, the Godseeker journeyed through the lands beyond until he caught the Pale King's beacon of light. This shows the pure power that the Pale King had. Even though he's dead, hidden away in the dream world, his beacon was still powerful enough to be detected by the makeshift God Tuner. When you unlock the Godseeker, she drops what seems to be an upgraded version of the God Tuner. When you enter her dream, she clearly has no interest in you. She sees you as a weak being that couldn't possibly be a god. I don't know though. According to them, Flukmarm is a god, and well, I mean... However, as she sees you ascend each pantheon, she believes in you more and more. Eventually, after you defeat the pure vessel, she is able to finally attune to the radiance, and she begins to trust you. These pantheons are cool, but kinda confusing. I mean, how are all these enemies from before that I've already killed here? With the God Tuner, the Godseeker is able to attune to gods near her, and somehow with this ability, she's able to basically cast them into the dream world in Godhome. The main question here is whether or not the enemies are willfully being put here or forcefully being pushed into Godhome. Upon dream nailing Hornet in one of her fights, she says things like, "Do you haunt my dreams, or I yours?" Because of this, it is clear that some can tell that they are in the dream of the Godseeker. Grimm is also very aware that he is in Godhome. When you think about it, it does make a lot of sense, as Grimm is clearly a higher being and is fully aware. Meanwhile, Hornet is a half-higher being and only somewhat aware of what's happening. So, it checks out. The masks that the Godseekers wear are also important, much like other masks throughout the game. A random cutscene can happen when you go into Godhome normally, with all bindings completed. It takes you to the Land of Storms, where you can see the Godseeker. She tells you how she's going to journey through the land to find new gods. The old God Tuner I mentioned earlier is here as well, along with the journal entry you get upon exiting the area. The journal entry is the Weathered Mask, and it tells you that with it, the Godseekers can obtain a so-called godly focus. This is what I assume is required to have a dream as complex as Godhome, and the ability to sustain all the other Godseekers and cast gods into the pantheons. Through this process, the Godseekers attune to gods, which appear to benefit both the god and the Godseekers. The Godseekers mentioned that through the god's strength, they are able to ascend. In the Hollow Gods, you can face gods on a higher difficulty as if they have become stronger. The Pure Vessel is a great example of the Godseeker's power. Although the Hollow Knight is taking on the fight against the infection, even while being chained down inside of a huge temple, he is still able to be in the Pantheon of the Night, as a younger and more powerful self. Clearly, the Godseekers can attune to gods and make them be rejuvenated back to their full strength in some way. During the Pantheon of Halnest, the Godseeker talks about some other higher beings that are being left out of the Pantheon. First, she talks about who has apparently lost so much of his power that the Godseekers cannot attune to him. We know this because, later in the Pantheon, the Godseeker talks about how the White Lady is purposely diminishing her power to avoid being detected. Because of this, it is possible that a similar thing happens with but it is involuntary. This also explains why he never called the Mosskin back into his dream. It is possible that he simply was not powerful enough to do so. Each boss of the Pantheon gives you a new journal entry upon defeating them. None of them reveal much, but they do each have a prayer for the Godseekers themselves. This also shows us that they can attune to the previous bosses without our help beating the crap out of them, as we have never fought Sly. Each prayer continuously reveals that the Godseekers are searching for what they call the God of Gods. This brings us to the end of the Pantheon of Halnest, at which point we must fight the Absolute Radiance. This is what we assume to be the God of Gods, who had to be awoken by them so they could attune to her. As we fight the Radiance, a sea of void follows us as we ascend to the peak of the Pantheon. After defeating the Radiance, we learn that the true God of Gods is a giant void creature, which according to the image file names is called the Shade Lord. In our episode about the ancient civilization, I mentioned the Shade Lord and said that he is most likely possible through the focus and attunement from the Godseekers. The Godseekers paying so much attention to the Knight during his ascension through all the Pantheons is most likely what led to this. With so much focus on him, and him being a part of the Shade Lord, it only makes sense. This is assuming that the Shade Lord simply is the Void, and that all the vessels are a part of it. The Void Idols also play an important role here, but I also talked about those in the episode on the ancient civilization, so I'll leave that information over there in that video. As a quick recap, the Godseekers are a group of people that worship their gods. When their gods abandoned them, they merged into one mind and created a place in their dream, Godhome. Eventually, they made it to Halnest and began searching for the God of Gods. They can attune to gods, and with their strength, the Godseekers can ascend and obtain better focus. This process also rejuvenates gods back to their original power. Through this focus and attunement, they can cast gods into Godhome and create their pantheons. Eventually, they find the God of Gods, and it kills the Radiance, and with it, the infection as well. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I understand that you would like to stop hearing the word God. Makes sense. I have strung the letters G, O, and D together a total of 78 times in this entire video. Oh my god, that's a lot! Oh wait, that's 79 times. Oops. Anyway, see you guys next time on the Godding Movie Jerks. Wait, I mean the Gaming Movie Jerks. Sorry. See you guys next time.
We're on a mission from God.